Chapter 1. The Man Nobody Notices. It's a Tuesday afternoon in Miami, the kind of afternoon where the heat hangs over the city like a blanket and the ocean looks almost fake from a distance. Inside a glass conference room 43 floors above Biscayne Bay, executives are arguing about numbers, broadcast rights, hospitality packages, stadium sponsorships, transportation contracts, billions of dollars moving through spreadsheets. Yet nobody notices the man sitting quietly at the far end of the table. A gray suit, no watch anyone recognizes, no entourage, no social media following, no interviews, no cameras. He speaks exactly twice during the entire meeting, and when he leaves, people move forward with decisions worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Most football fans will never know his name. That's exactly how he prefers it. Because while the world watches the FIFA World Cup 2026, while stadiums fill with screaming supporters and billions of viewers tune in from every continent, another game is happening behind the scenes. A quieter game, a slower game, a game built on ownership. And this man has been playing it for nearly 20 years. Chapter 2. Following the invisible trail. You first hear about him by accident, not through Forbes, not through Bloomberg, not through some flashy billionaire profile. You hear about him from a stadium contractor in Dallas. The conversation starts normally. Steel prices, construction timelines, labor shortages. Then the contractor says something strange. Funny thing is, the guy making the most money from this World Cup probably won't attend a single match. You laugh, he doesn't. You ask who he's talking about. The contractor shrugs. Nobody talks about him. That answer bothers you, not because it's mysterious, because it sounds true. So you start digging. Weeks pass, then months. Every answer creates 3 new questions. Ownership structures are buried beneath layers of holding companies, partnership agreements, real estate trusts, infrastructure funds, private equity vehicles. The paper trail feels intentional, not illegal, not secret, just quiet, very, very quiet. Eventually, a picture begins to emerge. Chapter 3. The Parking Lot Strategy. The investor isn't a celebrity billionaire. He didn't invent an app. He didn't launch a crypto token. He doesn't own a football club. In fact, most people would find his career unbelievably boring, which is exactly why it worked. 20 years ago, he wasn't thinking about World Cups. He was thinking about parking lots. Actual parking lots. Large, empty pieces of land near stadiums, airports, and transport hubs. Places nobody wanted, places nobody talked about, places investors ignored because they weren't exciting. He bought them anyway, one at a time. Slowly, patiently, a few acres here, 10 acres there, industrial land, storage yards, logistics facilities, transportation corridors, nothing glamorous, nothing headline-worthy. The kind of assets that make people ask, why would anyone buy that? Because he wasn't buying what they were. He was buying where the future would eventually need to stand. And that's a very different thing. Chapter 4. Building the hidden network. Years pass, cities grow, roads expand, airports become crowded, ports become busier, sports events become larger. Suddenly, those boring pieces of land don't look so boring anymore. A warehouse near Houston becomes a distribution hub. A transport yard near Kansas City becomes critical infrastructure. A parking operation outside Dallas becomes a major event asset. Nobody notices the pattern because nobody is looking at the whole map. He is. One property becomes 5. 5 become 20. 20 become an interconnected system. Not a collection of assets. A network. The kind of network that takes decades to build. Not months, not years, decades, and that's the part most people misunderstand about wealth. They imagine giant moments, huge risks, single decisions, life-changing bets. But wealth often looks different. It looks like patience, it looks like paperwork, it looks like consistency. Chapter 5. When the World Cup arrives, then FIFA announces the World Cup, 16 host cities, 3 countries, millions of visitors, hundreds of thousands of hotel bookings, transportation networks operating around the clock, security logistics, media compounds, fan zones, temporary facilities, broadcast operations, merchandise distribution, food supply chains. The biggest sporting event on the planet. Most people immediately start thinking about football. He starts thinking about trucks, storage, traffic flow, and land. Always land, because every massive event eventually becomes a logistics problem. The television cameras point toward the pitch, but the money flows somewhere else, quietly. He already owns pieces of that somewhere else, not the stadiums, the systems around them, the invisible machinery that keeps everything moving. Chapter 6. The Billion-Dollar Advantage. You eventually discover one deal, then another, then another. An infrastructure partnership in Texas, a transportation services agreement in California, a logistics facility outside Atlanta, an event support operation near New Jersey. Individually, they don't seem remarkable. Together, they form something much larger. A former business partner explains it best. He hates attention. You ask why. The man laughs. Attention creates competition. Then he adds something that stays with you. Most people spend their lives trying to look successful. He spent his trying to become useful. Useful, not famous, not influential. Useful. The distinction matters. Because useful assets get paid. Useful infrastructure gets renewed. Useful relationships survive downturns. Useful businesses keep operating long after the headlines disappear. Chapter 7. Owning the field beneath the game. And the World Cup will disappear. Eventually. The final whistle will blow, the trophy will be lifted, fans will go home, sponsors will move on, television crews will leave, the headlines will fade, but the roads will remain, the warehouses will remain, the transport contracts will remain, the infrastructure will remain, and the silent investor will still own pieces of it. That's the part nobody sees when they look at billion-dollar events. The real money isn't always in the spotlight. Sometimes it's standing just outside the frame. Sometimes it's parked in industrial districts nobody photographs. Sometimes it's hidden behind loading docks, logistics centers, and ownership agreements, buried 50 pages deep inside legal documents, and sometimes it's a man sitting quietly at the end of a conference table while everyone else argues. Speaking twice, listening carefully, owning assets everyone needs, needing recognition from absolutely nobody. Because while the world watches the FIFA World Cup, he's watching something else entirely. Cash flow. And unlike a football match, cash flow doesn't care who wins, it only cares who owns the field beneath the game. The silent investor understood a truth most people never learn. The biggest fortunes are rarely built by owning the spotlight. They're built by owning what the spotlight depends on.